Hana and Jessie-Lee's Bad Habits are a Melbourne outfit who released their debut album Southlands in 2017 and have just released their latest album, laboriously entertaining and thought-provoking, Say What You Mean. So I'm very interested to talk to them both about it. Hello, Hana, and hello, Jessie-Lee.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm going to launch into your musical association, really, instead of talking about the album straight up, and asked how and when you started playing music together.
I think it was in 2013? No, 2014?
2014.
2014. Jess got a way better memory than me. Yeah, 2014, we started first playing music together in Adelaide. I had some songs that I wanted to record with a band, so they were more in the country realm. And I had a friend, Ryan, who had also written some songs, and we had been sort of playing a little bit of music together. And yeah, I just basically asked Jess to come and play with us, and then me and Jess ended up doing a little sort of residency in the front bar of the Crown and Anchor Hotel in Adelaide, and we really liked playing music together. So yeah, we just kept playing music together.
Yeah, and we knew each other from both playing in two separate punk bands in Adelaide. So mine was a bit more of a kind of rockabilly surf kind of band, and Hana's is probably a bit more grunge and straight up punk, I reckon. And yeah, we'd often play on the same bill together in those bands, so that's how we met each other. And I've always liked country music and country adjacent kind of stuff, so yeah, I guess Hana thought I'd be good for the job when she needed someone. So yeah,
I have talked to other musicians who started in punk and went to country, and I think they might on the face of it seem far apart, but I actually think the type song structure you have to have in punk probably does lend itself really well to going into other forms. And I guess punk is about direct storytelling, and that kind of authenticity and directness is appreciated in country music as well.
Yeah, very simple
absolutely.
chord progressions as well, I guess, in both, and simple song structures and stuff like that in both genres. So
yeah, I think it's really just like tempo that changes, but like
and distortion
and instrumentation and distortion. But like you could so easily play a punk song as a country song and a country song as a punk song. Like so many genres are interchangeable, but it's a pretty easy and common transition.
Right, so I will ask therefore about your punk past, both of you. What attracted you to punk? Jessie-Lee, I'll start with you.
I don't know, I just really liked surf music, and I got into the Cramps, so they were my kind of gateway drug to punk, I guess, because they're kind of very 50s sort of rock and roll and horror film influenced, I guess. And yeah, that was sort of my intro, I think.
And you, Hana?
I was sort of really into bands like Bad Religion and NoFX and that kind of 90s wave of punk. But I was also, I guess, like from there, that was sort of like very early teenage years, like 13, 14 years old, going to Big Day Out and going to see all my favorite bands, which at that time, like punk was just huge, and like pop punk became really huge. So yeah, I was in my element. But by the time I actually started playing in a band, I probably had transitioned more into listening to bands that were a bit more garage and a lot of 50s girl groups and things like that. So it was kind of a combination, I guess, of all those things that came out in the songwriting at the time.
And so going way back to when you both started your musical lives, so what was the first instrument or the first thing you did? So Hana, for you, was it voice, or was there an instrument in your childhood?
Oh, it was definitely guitar. Like I played classical guitar in primary school, which was very uncool. But then when I think I was 14 when I bought my first electric guitar, which was like this no-name thing that I just plastered with stickers, with like a 10-watt amp. And I'd gotten a job at the supermarket down the road just so I could buy an electric guitar. So yeah, that's kind of what got me into playing guitar. I didn't start singing till I was probably like 17 or 18, I think, like quite late. I didn't really know that I could sing, or didn't really think I could, but I guess with punk it was kind of like, well, I can just yell and that's like passable. And then I was like, oh, I kind of really like singing, and so then I just kept doing it, and I guess my vocal qualities developed over time later in life, opposed to someone who starts singing really young, and probably by the time they're 19, they're like, more of a singer. Whereas I feel like I didn't really find my feet singing until I was in my 20s.
But also you can say, because you have such a fantastic voice, it's so expressive and there's so many different nuances in it, that one wonders if you had learned to sing younger, whether you would actually have some things to unlearn in terms of the songs that you're performing now. And maybe it's just that arriving at it at that time meant you were an adult pretty much, and coming to it with that perspective.
Yeah, it's still painful to listen to recordings of when you were like 18 or something. You're just like, what accent was that? Like, why was I? What affectation is that? It's so strange. Like, even, just anything you listen to from the past, it's just so cringeworthy because you just never used to listening to yourself sing. But yeah, that's true. I guess it's just different for everyone. But I love singing, so I just kept doing it.
And Jessie-Lee, you are the guitar maestra of the band, so I'm guessing guitar was your first instrument, or maybe not. Maybe you started on piano or something else.
Guitar was the first instrument I learnt properly, I guess. My mum played piano and keyboard, so I was always sort of dabbling around on that at home, but really just teaching myself, never had formal lessons. And I'd always wanted to play guitar because my great-grandpa in Launceston, he was known as the guitarist of the family, had about 30 guitars, and there's all these amazing old photos of him performing in his sort of Hawaiian country band back in the day. So I was always kind of grew up knowing about him, and I was lucky enough to still be he was still alive when I was little, so I did get to meet him, and there's photos of me and him together. So he was sort of my inspo, and I always wanted to play guitar, and then I started when I was about 13. After my sister got given a guitar and then gave up her lessons, I kind of like took it to my room, which was also her room because we shared a room, and started playing it, and just loved it straight away, and just started doing some lessons at school and went from there, I guess.
Has it been, have you added instruments, or is it that's your sole love, the guitar?
Played drums for a bit as well, because at the time I got started playing guitar, I was really interested in playing drums too, but drums are pretty loud and big, so guitar seemed like an easier choice.
So when the two of you started playing together at the Cranker, as I think it may be colloquially
known, that's correct.
Was it did it feel like immediate chemistry that you actually, because I suppose you've both been playing quite a bit by that time, so you weren't amateurs at all, but was it immediate chemistry, or did you take some getting used to each other?
I think it was pretty instant, I would say. Like,
it felt pretty easy. Yeah,
because we did. I know, you go.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I think that because we both hadn't played country music in like a band before, and we both loved country music, it was sort of an instant like click where we were both like, oh, this is something I've wanted to do for a while, and this just works, and it just feels easy. Yeah. What were you going to say, Jess? Sorry.
I was just going to say, just when you're working with just one other person as well, it's kind of a bit easier to get things together. And we had that residency, and we played every Monday for a whole month in December, and every month, this is in the front bar of the Cranker, and every week it just kind of grew bigger and bigger, and we just kept playing different songs every week, and it was a really good experience, and that sort of kicked it off for us.
Yeah, we had lots of friends as the support each week as well, so it was super fun to just do something completely different that any of our friends had seen as well. And also I'd just be like, oh, let's learn this song. And so we'd just learn it and then just literally play it the week after, which is not something that I ever do now. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need way more practice to play that live, But we were
young, young and reckless.
Was it at that stage that you got the band name?
No, we had a different band name. So like we when we played as a duo, we just called ourselves Hana and Jessie-Lee. But the first band that we were in together was called The Slow Ruin, which there's a couple of clips on YouTube, and I think there's maybe something on Bandcamp. But that was like a 7-piece kind of more honky-tonk band, and that was the first iteration of us playing together, but that band lasted 6 months. Like crashed and burned, like a very fast ruin. Complete
Yeah, it was
opposite to the name of the band.
also a 7-piece band, I think, at some times. So it was a lot of organization
Yeah.
and wrangling. So playing as a duo with, 2 other people now in our band is a lot easier to manage.
Yeah, because not everyone's going to turn up for rehearsal in a 7-piece band, are they? And then gigs get tricky.
Yeah, I can't even remember rehearsals, but I think they were pretty chaotic and difficult to coordinate, like incredibly hard to coordinate.
Yeah.
So when did you get the band name, and which bad habits is it named after?
The band name actually just came from, like, we were calling ourselves just Hana and Jessie-Lee after the Slow Ruin ended, because we were still playing gigs. And then when we went in to record Southlands, because we had a band recording with us, but not a band that it was sort of like thrown together just for the recording. I just didn't want it to be just Hana and Jessie-Lee. I wanted to indicate that it was a band. And so I was just like, what about Hana and Jessie-Lee's Bad Habits? Like, rather than Hana and Jessie-Lee and the something, or Hana and Jessie-Lee Band, I just thought it just sort of sounded good. Not really thinking about how long of a band name it is, how many times people were going to misspell it on festival lineups. But yeah, it was I don't know, it just popped into my head, and I was like, yeah, that's good enough.
And Jessie-Lee, what did you think when Hana suggested it to you?
Yeah, no, I liked it. I was just glad we picked a name, because I hate the whole like trying to pick a name. It's so hard, especially now. Every year that goes past, there's more bands that have existed, and now you can Google them all. So if you look up a name, it's likely someone over in Canada already has that band name. So yeah, it's a lot trickier than maybe back in the day. So,
pre-internet, it wouldn't have mattered if they had the same name. No one would have known. Now,
exactly.
they've got that Instagram account before you, so it's
I think the bad habits though just came from, I think just at the time I just was like, oh, that just sounds good. Plus I have so many bad habits, so it just is really fitting. But not the bad habits that you would automatically think of. Like, I think people just think of like smoking and drinking, or like being super reckless, or things like that. But me and Jess were talking about this the other day, and we were like, no one really ever asks us what our bad habits are, and so we never talk about them.
I'm here to ask you, what are they, Hana?
I'm gonna let Jess go first, because she told me in the car the other day when we were going to ABC for an interview, because she was like, if they asked us about this is what I was going to say. So you can tell.
My bad habit is never closing a drawer all the way.
I can
always leave it slightly ajar.
Depends what's in it, right? Sometimes it can't close. Sometimes it's just
exactly.
Well, that's pretty acceptable, I think, as a bad habit. And then you only named one, then that's almost a blemish-free life. So well, so Hana, therefore you've got to confess now.
I mean, like, I've got a lot, but I think probably one of my worst habits is like yelling from the other end of the house when I want to have a conversation with my partner, which I never really realized that I did until one of my other friends was talking about how their partner does that, and I was like, I think I do that. And so I went home and I was like, do I do this thing that's really annoying? She was like, it's just a trait that I accept of you. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I think it's having an Italian background, because like we all yell, like everyone just yells, conversation is yelling, everything is yelling, happy, sad, whatever, it's just yelling all the time. So it's just really normal for me to just like yell from the other end of the house, and then Kate will come in and be like, are you talking to me? And I'm like, yeah, I just wanted to know like what you wanted to have for dinner.
Well, because there's no need to walk to the other end of the house when you could yell it. I think that
and then they come to you, so it works out.
I think these are mild bad habits. I was hoping for more in the country music, smoking, drinking.
I gave those things up.
I didn't give those things up. I still have lots of bad habits. We don't need to talk about them.
When it comes to country music, so when you started playing together, did you find that you had some artists in common that you really loved, or who had influenced you?
Yeah, a lot. I'm trying to think who I was listening to at the time. Probably Lucinda Williams was a pretty big one. but I've always really loved Patsy Cline and Loretta Lynn. So I think when I was first starting out, and obviously Dolly Parton as well, I was probably listening to a lot of those, but I still was listening to a lot of soul as well. So like Aretha Franklin, Mary Wells, people like that. So it was kind of a combo of both for me.
Yeah. And Jessie-Lee?
Yeah, I think the time we sort of got the band together, I was listening to a lot of kind of newer, kind of alt country artists. So I really liked Nikki Lane, Kelsey Walden, and Daniel Romano. I think they were the three artists that I was listening to the most at the time that we started the band. And I also loved Lucinda Williams as well. So yeah, I like all the classic country, don't get me wrong, but I was like really inspired by new artists doing new music as well.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, that country soul element is really strong, I think, on both of your albums. And also, Hana, just thinking about you talking about your voice and when you started singing, I think coming to those soul artists at a certain age has no doubt influenced how you sing. So again, just to the point of probably just as well you didn't start singing earlier. I'm going to stick with that.
She might be doing
we'll
Christina Aguilera kind of trills or something like
That's
that.
right.
If you started when you were younger.
Yeah.
Look, if I could, I would.
And I'm also interested in how, so when you started performing together, and I guess when you started writing and recording together as well, how you developed your sound, because there is this way in which the voice and guitar really work together. Like they play off each other, which sounds like it's a like almost a frivolous thing. And I don't mean that at all. But listening to it, I keep thinking, is it intuitive that you do that with each other, or is it something that you work on in terms of how they work together? Because it is almost like, Jessie-Lee, your guitar is like almost like in a duet with Hana sometimes.
Yeah, I think it's pretty intuitive on my part anyway, how I feel about it. You know, usually like when Hana brings a song to rehearsal, some of the guitar parts and stuff I'll come up with in the first sort of initial jams end up being similar to what I, you know, continue playing or put on a record. So I think feels pretty natural to me anyway.
Yeah, I think Jess is like a real instinctive player. So I think she hears the melodies in, you know, what I'm singing and sort of takes that, and then it becomes not like she doesn't like play a guitar melody that echoes what I'm singing, but I don't know, it's like she hears the notes and then that somehow just gets interpreted into like into a guitar line or a lead guitar line. But I think I've always thought of Jess's guitar of having a very vocalistic quality to it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the melodies, especially, you know, like a hook line will get really stuck in my head, like in the same way that a chorus of a song might get stuck in your head. So I think that's kind of, to me, what sets her apart from other guitarists. I mean, that's sort of what I like in terms of what I hear. I'm not like a real guitar nerdy kind of person, like people shredding and stuff like that. But I kind of, my ears look more for that melodic aspect, and that's what I really like when I hear music and I hear someone doing a solo. It's like, could I sing that solo? You know, when you think about famous guitar solos, they're the ones that you're like, wham, wham, wham. Like they're the ones that you can sing along to. You know, you could do like a voice guitar solo. So yeah, that's kind of what I like about Jess's playing.
And when you started writing together, was that a fairly seamless process as well, given that when you started playing together, it seemed to gel?
When we first started, I guess it's the process that we still kind of go with is I'll write the bare bones of a song, and it might just be a verse and a chorus with just some basic chords, and I'll give that to Jess, and then we'll start working on an arrangement. So that's kind of how we've done it, except for Southlands, which I co-wrote with Nick Finch. So that was a slightly different process because we were co-writing and then we would bring it into the room with all the other people, including Jess. Whereas, yeah, this album was more bringing a song together, like in the same room, just me and Jess, and writing it and then giving it to the other band members and playing it as a whole band. So that's just kind of the process that seems to work for us. And if I get really stuck on an arrangement, we'll sit down and just try different things out and bounce off each other. So yeah, it just kind of works in that way.
Yeah. And Jessie-Lee, when did writing for this latest album start?
Well, I'm trying to think of what the oldest song is, probably Tallest of Tales, which I think we've probably been playing for, dare I say it, close to 6 years now, I reckon. But, you know, COVID
Yeah,
obviously stole a couple from us.
yeah.
So I would have started probably, yeah, like a year or two after the last album was released. So I reckon 2018, but I think the bulk of the songs have been written sort of since 2020, between 2020 and 2022, basically.
Yeah.
2023.
Yeah.
Because obviously Hana like wrote quite a lot of songs during lockdown, and I think most of the songs probably come from that sort of time.
Interesting. Yeah,
And
right.
then some were written later, like quite a lot later. We recorded in July last year, so they were obviously all done before then. But yeah, some were written a bit later.
So the two albums are quite different to each other. Southlands has a more traditional sounds on it in a lot of ways. The vocals are produced really differently. I found that just the vibe of the thing, to borrow that line from the movie The Castle, was really different, and it's lovely. And they're complementary. But listening to both of them, I was thinking what I can detect in both of these is that you're interested in big themes, I think, lyrically and in terms of subject matter. You don't have any room for fripperies in your songs. Like, these are all songs that mean something. There are stories in them. They're really well done. So I wonder, is that true to say? You're not interested in fripperies?
I've never even heard that word before. I'm
There you
a
go.
word person too, but I like that
things.
word. I'm gonna write that down. Yeah, they are definitely all meaningful on both albums. There are different themes on both albums because I was in very different places during writing of the songs across both albums. I think Southlands is a little bit darker. Like, I was not having the best time when I was writing a lot of those songs. And I think that kind of comes through a lot in the lyrics in those songs. Whereas this one, I think there's a little bit more of a variety with the themes on the newer album. I feel like it's got a little bit more of attack to it opposed to the introspective nature to it as well, because I mean, there's love songs on there. There's like a song just like entirely about my insomnia and not being able to sleep and having struggled with that for like a very long time. And then the title track, Say What You Mean, is just about, you know, like the frustrations that you feel when with dishonesty, or with people that just don't outright say what they're thinking, or like, you know, keep that sort of stuff hidden, and rather than just, you know, being open and honest. So yeah, there's like a lot of different themes across both albums, but they are, yeah, absolutely just very meaningful to me, and honest.
And that song about insomnia does have a great title, Insomniacrobat.
Yes, because it's like, it's such a debilitating thing to live with, and I don't have it probably as bad as what other people have it, but I mean, I've always been a really bad sleeper, and so was my mum. And I was listening to an interview with a doctor who says that like that sort of thing is hereditary as well. But yeah, I just sort of thought, oh, why don't I just give the insomnia like a fun name so it makes me feel like I'm really good at it. Like Insomniacrobat.
It's a great title. It also has a great line in it: high hopes and burning troubles. And you know, it's the refrain of the song. And I was listening to it thinking, it's kind of a description of life, really. High hopes, burning troubles.
That's my everyday life. I know they're the kind of things that you ponder when you're, I guess, lying awake and staring at the ceiling and getting stressed about not sleeping and having to get up early, and then the stress keeping you awake for longer. So those cycles are, yeah, part of, yeah, I guess that's entirely what the song's about. And also just being stressed that you're keeping, like, especially if you're, you know, have a partner, that you're keeping them awake too, because that just, you know, trying not to move and trying not to toss and turn too much. So yeah, it's, I think, fitting for me to write a song about it. And I wrote that in 2020 as well. So there was a lot of insomnia happening during that year.
Jessie-Lee, I should ask, have you ever suffered from insomnia?
Not really, no. I do wake up a lot during the night, but yeah, I wouldn't say it was insomnia.
So when Hana comes to you with lyrics, do you think about how you're going to interpret those lyrics with the guitar almost in a way, like, or how you're going to provide it some companionship to them, if that makes sense?
I don't really, but I probably should. That's a good suggestion.
No, what you're doing is working.
That's a good tip.
It
No,
works.
I think maybe I just feel the overall kind of theme or vibe of
Right.
the song.
Yeah.
And go from there. But I probably, don't interpret the lyrics so literally in terms of what I'm playing. But it is something to think about. I do like it when people do that and you can hear certain things that really match what they're singing about.
You probably kind of do it subconsciously though, because you
think
can
so.
hear what the song is about, and it's not like you try and play something super upbeat and like happy over a sad song.
Although Paul McCartney likes to do that, a lot
Yeah.
of his songs, like I'm Looking Through You, it's like really depressing lyrics, but the song's really happy. So
Yeah, I love that juxtaposition of happy and sad interpreted in different ways through like music and lyrics.
Well, the first song that popped into my mind of his when you said that, Jessie-Lee, is No More Lonely Nights, which is actually like a song about being incredibly lonely, but has this quite upbeat.
yeah. He does it a lot, I think. Yeah.
So like, yeah, okay, now I'm going to listen to the Paul McCartney back catalogue and think about that. Do you each have a favorite song from the album?
Oh, I need to look at the track listing. No. I think
Should know it off by heart now.
Paper Boats is my favorite song.
Right. It's the current
maybe
single.
maybe because it's the kind of newest one. But I also just really like the vibe of it. It's a bit different to the other songs. It's pretty kind of dark in terms of the music. And we did have a different kind of chorus for it, but Hana rewrote it like when we were mixing the song, like on the last day, basically. And I think what she came up with is just stunning, and it's it really took the song to another level. So I would say that's my favorite song.
And Hana, for you?
I mean, it's probably Insomniac Acrobat because of what it's about, and just because it's the only song I wrote on piano, and I don't know how to play piano at all. I could not tell you what chords are on a piano. But I had this little tiny keyboard, and I was sitting on my bed, and I just started putting like sort of trying to work out chords, and just started playing like 2 chords back and forth, and I didn't know what chords they were. And then I wrote the song entirely out of that, and just making it, I think I wrote it in like half an hour and just made it up on the spot. So probably that one. And because I think it's quite different to the rest of the album. And then the otherwise I would probably say Louisa, because it was written as a Christmas present and then ended up on the album.
That's a lovely thing to do. And now I've forgotten which one of you is responsible for the cover art.
That's Hana. Definitely not me. I can't draw to save my life.
But I also thought that ties in with the line "High Hopes and Burning Troubles," because there are flames and there's some hands held high.
Yeah, that's I do all the artwork for the band, so all the merch, posters, and everything. It's sort of like a part-time side hustle illustration for me. So it's handy to be able to do that for my own band.
And now, speaking of merch, I imagine you'll be taking some on the road with you, and you have an extensive tour planned. And I did read that you're planning to drive to a lot of it, and there are 2 other members of the band. So are all 4 of you going on the road?
Except for Tassie's going to be just us as a duo, just because it's our first time going there, and just for costs, really, I guess. But the rest of the tour is 4-piece band. So us and Tommy Brooks on bass and Patrick Wilson on drums.
Patrick Wilson is a popular man, from what
he is. He's in a lot of bands. We're very lucky he's available for all those dates. I actually can't believe it.
Yeah,
they're both available because they play in about 10 bands each. So we're very lucky to play with them.
You must have done well at scheduling far enough in advance that they could do it.
We tried, yeah.
So how did you choose your destinations? Because it is an extensive amount of ground you're going to cover.
I think we just picked the main places we wanted to go first, and sort of approximately when we could go, and then started looking at regional places to do around that. A few things just happened to line up, like the Cronulla Jazz and Blues Festival. Like that was just convenient that lined up, and I happened to contact one of the organizers at the time, and they were like, "Oh, you should just be part of this." And I was just like, "Amazing, perfect." And the rest, yeah, we're just sort of looking, where could we go? Where haven't we been? It's really, really hard booking a tour because not everyone replies to you. It's so much admin because you're just like, I really want to play at this place because I think it would be great. And then you email them and you don't get a reply, and you're like, okay, cool. Do I wait? Do I try someone else? And it's just like, it's like that for months and months. So we're lucky that nearly everywhere that we wanted to play is part of the tour. And yeah, there's a few places that we've never done before too. So that's super exciting for us.
So I will ask, in conclusion, do you have any bad traveling habits? Jessie-Lee, you can go first.
I snore. I'm also a really bad backseat driver, so I constantly tell people that they're going over the speed limit or that things that are coming up or that they should change lanes. So that's
I think
that's
no,
pretty
I
bad.
don't think that's bad backseat driving. I think that's considerate backseat driving because you're helping manage the drive so that they don't get into trouble, they don't get a speeding ticket. I totally understand about the lane changing thing. I
Thank
do it
you.
as well. I plan lane changes well ahead.
Don't encourage her.
Hana, any bad traveling habits for you?
Obviously insomnia, particularly on the road, and being a distracted driver.
So now it's revealed why Jessie-Lee needs to be a backseat driver.
Sometimes I tend to creep over the speed limit if I'm not paying attention. But luckily Jess is there to tell me that I'm speeding, so it all works out.
Yeah.
So it's all making sense now.
Yeah.
But it's also a chicken and egg thing. Did your driving style actually mean that Jessie had to pitch in and be the backseat driver, or was it vice versa? Who knows?
Nah, Hana actually is a really good driver. It's just I get panicky because the car that we sometimes use, it belongs to my work, and Hana is allowed to drive it. But yeah, I don't want to get a speeding fine in my work car because it's not a good look. So a lot of it comes from that.
So do you find when you go on the road or play live generally that these songs change shape a bit? Like, so you've recorded a version of it, obviously, but given how expressive you both are with your instruments respectively, are there live versions that wander far from the recorded versions?
I think that they are probably just they can just get a bit more raucous live, I think. So the ones that are more upbeat, when we do play them live, we just dig in more. Like, you know, you kind of have your recorded version, and then with your live version, you can extend the intro out, or you can do a longer, more hectic guitar solo, or, you know, there's so many other things you could do vocally. Like I just naturally don't do the exact same thing every time, but, you know, it's fun to be able to go, like, you know, wail a bit more, do a few more like real belting notes when you play live, which is really fun. So yeah, I think they just become more of a party when we play them live.
Yeah. And Jessie-Lee, how many guitars do you take on the road with you?
Just one usually. I'm a bit of a minimalist. Plus, we've got limited space in the car, so sometimes I'll bring a second one. But I really only like playing the one guitar. So obviously, if I break a string, I'm kind of in trouble. But hopefully, that won't happen.
I would imagine you're probably pretty speedy changing strings, though, right?
Yeah, I'm sure we could make it work if it did happen. So yeah, whatever I can fit in the car. But yeah, usually one guitar.
Well, I can just do a drum solo while Jess changes the string anyway.
Yeah.
Well, there are several dates for people to come and see you over the next few months. So they're on your website, and I'll put them with this interview. And in the meantime, they can listen to your album, Say What You Mean, which I love and have been listening to on repeat. And Hana, Jessie-Lee of The Bad Habits. Lovely to talk to you both.
Thanks,
Thank
Sophie.
you. Thanks, Sophie.